So, having a look at these exam questions, usually when it comes to an essay question, you can kind of work out what you've got to do by how many points there are. So, for example, if I've got 12 marks, right, then the likelihood is there's going to be 4 areas. There's usually an area per 3 points. So if I've got 9 marks, there's usually 3 areas to talk about. If I've got 6 marks, there's usually 2 areas. So it's a bit of a game of maths, really. So with 12 marks, there should be a minimum of 4 areas that we should be talking about. That's even before I've looked at the question. So it says there's a tour operator that sells holidays to places around the world. They hold all of their customer and business data. So let's be aware that there's importance of data security here. Following recent news articles about the effects of malware attacks on businesses, the management of AQA Travel have been investigating how they could protect themselves against malware attacks. Discuss 4 methods that AQA Travel could use to prevent, so it's about preventing infections from malware and to minimize the damage that could be caused. Now, in order to access the 10 to 12 marks, you must have commented on at least 4 examples, all right? And you must show that you understand how they can protect their devices from malware or minimize the damage, okay? So, there are a number of different areas that you could talk about here, all right? So, you could have, if I'm splitting this up into 4 areas, what I'm going to do, just to help you visualize it, is you're going to have each area, okay, so you're going to have the area, then you're going to say what it is, and how. That's the way you should be answering this question here. So one of the areas that you could take to minimize and to protect themselves from from attacks, all right, you could have said regular backups. The reason why it's important that you write the word regular is because there are different issues that may occur as a result. One particular thing that you can have is that ransomware can actually filter itself onto your backups. So you need to have a number of different backups so that you can actually sort that out, okay? So first of all, you need to, so the reason why we have regular backups is so that if you need to restore data that has been destroyed, or deleted, but we're going to say it has been destroyed, all right, it's important to have access to the backup, all right. On top of that, all right, you might want to make sure your antivirus is up to date. Up to date. All right, malware such as viruses come out every week. All right. If you update your virus definitions, it can match it if it finds the virus. So if you update virus definitions, it's more likely to match the virus and detect it. All right. Other areas you could have: disable the use of external hardware / hard drives. All right. By doing that, you are stopping, you can prevent someone from bringing in a worm/file that can infect the whole network. So you've got your point and the reason why, okay? There are other things that you could have done, all right? You can use filtering. Monitoring and filtering can prevent people from accessing websites that are likely to contain malware. Are there any other areas that I've not mentioned?
You have a firewall.
Good. You could have had a firewall. So firewalls check the traffic. You can't just get a mark for saying that it stops, because that implies that it stops everything. You've got to say that firewalls check the traffic and compare it to allow lists, and if it's not allowed, then traffic is stopped. Okay, you've got to acknowledge that traffic can be stopped, but not that it just stops everything. That's a common misconception. Whenever I was marking exam papers, I always saw that people said, firewalls stop traffic. It's not about stopping traffic. You've got to acknowledge that it is actually checking it against the rules and regulations of the company. Anything else similar to a firewall?
It's not similar, but can you configure your access rights so everyone has access to it?
Yeah, I'm going to say that. Access rights. Only allow responsible people rights to sensitive parts of the system. I only want, so like for example, in our school, you'd only want your teachers to have access to your personal information, because if a student was able to access that, they could cause some damage, they could get access to your data. The same applies with data in the sense of protecting it, okay? We could have also had, which I was surprised that nobody mentioned, is MAC address filtering. Alright, remember we don't say black and white list anymore, alright? We can have an allow list which only lets approved hardware onto the network. This prevents people targeting with malicious intent. Now, there are some others that you may want to consider. Only allowing specific programs. If you only allow specific programs to run on the computer, then other files will not be able to run on the network. You could have also said that make sure all software is up to date, not just your antivirus. Think about it. Whenever we do a Windows update, we are covering the loopholes of the system. Yes?
You have encryption.
You need to be specific about what you're encrypting. Encryption on its own isn't enough, because generally we use encryption to send data and receive it, all right? Encrypting data doesn't necessarily stop it from being deleted. Does that make so? I would technically avoid that, because I could encrypt all my files on the computer, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the malware is not going to attack those files. They're still there. It would just make them unreadable. Okay. Yes.
You have pen testing.
Say it again.
Penetration testing.
Yes, you could have had penetration testing. So what that means is where you are basically trying to break it. You're trying to understand the weaknesses of your system, but then you've got to acknowledge by doing penetration testing, you know the weaknesses, therefore you can fix them. Okay? So those are all the areas, and you needed 4 of them explained in order to access the top mark bands. And just to say, there must be a clear understanding shown through 4 relevant examples, and discuss how the company would protect their devices or minimize the infection. Examples should be well supported and reasoned, and why the methods would be effective. So I've explained what the methods are here. I haven't really said how they would be effective. So if I was talking about regular backups, I could say by doing a regular backup, if it was infected, I can get it back to the point where it was at. Antivirus, I have said how having up-to-date virus definitions means that it's up to date. To prevent from worms or files to infect the network. So there are some reasons there, but you need to make sure they are well developed. Okay. I'm going to stop recording of that one.